have a wee update for you. So, I was saying Charlie was off on a trial shift of a delivery job.
Yes.
And he didn't think it was going to be for him. He stuck with it because he agreed to do it. So he saw it out, which, good advice from Dad there. But he ended up actually thinking this is all right. He made a ton of tips. And I think
that's why he thinks it went all right.
Exactly. But what cracks
we know your
me
price, Charlie.
What cracks me up was after I was talking about like how, what a lovely young man he is and how, mature and everything he's becoming. I came home and having talked some considerable trash about the state of the kitchen of the place that he was, supposed to be doing this delivery for.
Yes.
Well, I come in and he goes, "Hey, if you're hungry, I brought home food." And I was like,
he did not.
What?
He did not.
He did.
Where are these boys' morals?
He's still a student at heart. He's like,
yes,
free food versus sketchy looking kitchen. But yeah, there you go. His price is free food and a handful of tips. Good on him. He's getting his money. He's chasing that bag. I'm fine with it.
Charlie, but he was so principled at the time.
Yeah. And all it took was a couple of handfuls of squished fivers and suddenly, yeah.
That's a good story. That's a good story for the future girlfriend, that his morals are so easily swayed.
Yes. Yeah.
Good for him.
He's got stuff to pay for.
They wouldn't allow to be open if it was that bad, I was thinking on the way home as well.
There'll be hygiene. Yeah. I think there'll be hygiene checks and stuff
maybe
like that.
He was spoiled by the other company. Maybe because they're
the other company were like, who knew?
Yeah, so maybe he's comparing the Ritz to whatever of pizza to
to faulty towers.
Yeah. Maybe that's what. Maybe he just needed to get through that. That's fascinating. I love Charlie.
All right. So yeah, today doing a little chitty chat about food is a nice segue because we are going to speak about a woman who ended up in that arena, although that wasn't what she thought she was going to do with her life when she started, which is relatable. I think none of us know exactly how life's going to be. I guess you could draw you could draw a little parallel with the financial necessity piece, but yeah, let's get into it. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
All right. How are you, Vicky? How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. Ready to roll. I will begin it. So yes, sometimes someone will come along who, being in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time, finds the course of their life diverted into a completely unexpected path. And one such person, one such is today's lady, who is Eliza Acton, a Victorian, a poet, and unexpectedly, the author of the world's first cookbook aimed at the home cook. There's a little picture of her there in later life.
That.
I know. It's so arbitrary. I had no idea about this person. My friend Teresa recommended a novel about her life, and it kind of got me interested, and I'm so glad she did because it's fascinating. Our sources for today are Project Gutenberg, where you can read the entirety of Eliza Acton's cookbook, highly recommended. The Brighton Museums had a story about her. Tunbridge History Museum also had a story about her because it's a bit of a local interest thing. There's a cool website you would have come across called Mental Floss, and they had an article about her. And then there is the novel, which is called The Language of Food by an author called Anabel Abbs. Right?
Nice.
So on this damp and wintry morning, I know that you're thinking deep down inside, what I'd really love is a condensed history of the publishing industry in Britain, circa 1476 to 1860. Is that...
You are damn right, Cara. That is exactly what I thought in my morning coffee.
Lucky you. Strap in. Here we go. Okay, so I'll try to keep it really brief, but it is important to the story. So in London in 1476, the first mechanical printing press arrived, and then it was kind of really rarefied use. It was all very regulated. Hundreds of years pass, and in 1695, the UK government relaxed censorship and control over printed materials.
Right.
We're going to whiz on to the 18th century, as that's when the first kind of concepts of copyright laws were introduced, which factors into our story largely in terms of how they did not work as effectively as you would hope. And then we're going to zoom ahead again, and now it's the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century. And you have this kind of perfect storm where the technological advances, like an easier to use steam powered printing press, machinery that allowed wood pulp to be turned into paper much more easily. Typesetting machinery could be manufactured more easily. Things could be distributed by the new railway networks. All of that came together at the same time as tax was abolished on printed items. And the public, through this kind of like golden age, were being given better chances for literacy and education. And all of those things fed in together to lead to what was called the golden age of publishing.
That's a lot of information. So,
Right?
yeah, I never appreciated A, that we were censored. And this is in this country, right? So there was censorship on that, which is so interesting
Well,
considering all the free
yeah.
speech chitter chatter. Sorry, go on.
It was at the time when, suppose it being new technology, the printed word was sacrosanct, and the government and the church, to some extent, were sort of in control of what was printed. And if you ever read any of the Hilary Mantel books, you will know there was a real lethal interest in controlling the printed word, the Bible in its original Latin
Yes.
version versus English. And
Okay.
so think along those vibes. Like, we have to be really controlled about what gets put into print. And I suppose when only a handful of people can read, then the majority of your populace goes, whatever, do what you
Yeah.
want. But as people became more educated and printing was democratized by technology, yeah, you got a more free printing trade.
And it also made me think how lucky we were with the guy who invented the internet who said, this is free for all. Like, if he hadn't have done that, that could have, history could have repeated itself,
That's an
couldn't it?
interesting
And
point.
that's another
Yeah.
thing I thought of. And then the tax on printed items. Do we have tax today? We must have tax today on printed items, like
Couldn't
books.
honestly tell you. I don't
Tax
I
on
don't think books are
printed.
taxed.
No way. Let me check. That's insane.
I love that you're checking your sources.
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's robust. It is the kind of thing we like.
Yeah, so it is tax unless it's educational. Educational is zero VAT. Most standard examples are VAT. Oh, no, no, no. Sorry, I've misunderstood. So VAT on things like diaries, calendars, forms, invoices, vouchers, stickers. No VAT on books, newspapers, journals, brochures, pamphlets, picture
Oh,
books, maps. Huh.
they're worthwhile. They want people to buy them. So
Well,
there
that's
you go.
adorable. Yay for
Bit of a
books.
a change of
Yes.
thinking. So into this sort of cauldron of books becoming more available, books becoming more printable and distributable, there's a bit of a feeding frenzy. Let's publish what we can. And at that time, that is when Miss Eliza Acton was born. She joins us in Battle in Sussex in 1799. And she grew up in a humble house connected to the brewery where her father worked. She was educated in keeping with those times, and then grew up in Suffolk and eventually co-ran a boarding school for girls. So you can see she's kind of interested in education, in the written word, and
Academia. Yeah.
that's where her life is headed. And this is where things take a bit of a turn for the scandalous. I do not know what actually happens. It's not particularly well documented, but I'll say there's gossip afoot. So Eliza goes off to France, and there are rumors
Already
of her.
gossip.
Yeah, gossip is bubbling away. She may have been jilted by a sweetheart.
Yes, Cara
She,
for the gossip. This is
yeah,
great
on the
gossip.
gossip. Some of the sources that talk about her leaving for France at that time talk about how women of her social class were often sent to Europe if they were inconveniently pregnant outside of marriage, and then they would have the baby and
Ooh.
adopt it to a
You are
European
pouring
family.
fuel on this fire,
I'm
Cara.
just I'm just
So
reporting
much
what was
fuel.
in the sources, but none of them know for sure. Maybe she just wanted
Okay,
to go on vacation, right? The poor woman.
fair.
But whatever happened, she went off to France for a few years and then returned to England.
Sweet.
And at that point, she moves back to Tunbridge. It's 1826. You'll know from our condensed history of the printing trade, lots of publication going on. She, at that point, puts out her own first poetry pamphlet.
Did
And
she? Just
yeah,
off her own
it's,
back?
well, yes, and more so perhaps than even you'd think, because at that time, in order to have something published small scale like that that wasn't commissioned, you had to go to the publisher with a list of subscribers, which were people who had agreed in advance to pay for your work, kind of like a self-publishing vibe.
Or Instagram followers. Like that's a lot of the
Yeah.
publishing today is that you won't get your book published unless you get so many followers on Instagram.
So some
It's the
things never
same, right?
change.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's interesting.
So
Sorry, go on.
she's out there, she's hustling, she's getting those getting those likes and follows. She manages to get this thing published, and the gist of a lot of the poetry is the scorned woman. So imagine Taylor Swift loving a bit of melodrama, loving a bit of nature imagery more than she loves a catchy hook, and that's the vibe. I have got some excerpts from Eliza's poetry for you to read, if you would be so kind. Give you a little
I'm very
flavor of it.
excited. That sounds great. And this is her about being jilted,
Hmm. Have a
potentially.
read. See what
Or
you
like,
think. See what you think.
go cold and fickle trifler, go, and bear thy traitor's smiles afar, when none like me too well shall know how hollow and how vain they are. Take back thy ring, for I have learned to hear thy name with hopeless heart, and oft with sickening soul have turned from what thou were to what thou art. They said the words I loved to hear were whispered in another's ear, with that sweet smile and tender tone, which thou madest my heart thine own. It's so swift.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
so
So
swift.
I'll give you the titles of these poems. The first one was Cold and Fickle Trifler.
Oh,
The
sorry, I assumed
second,
it was one
no,
big
no,
one.
it
Sorry.
sort of read that way the way I put it in, but there's three.
Sorry.
Take
Okay.
Back Your Ring and Abandonné. So this chick, something happened to her, right? Didn't it? I mean, reading
Yes.
that,
She is
something happened.
heartbroken.
She is
Yes.
heartbroken, and she then is published for her heartbreak.
And she's monetizing
History,
that girl. Good for
she
her.
is. She is chasing that coin. Good for her.
I like that.
However, in the fullness of time, people don't talk kindly about her poetry. They judge her as cliche, sentimental, banal, romanticized. It's not very nice, but you know, she wasn't just doing it for the art. She was working through some stuff. We've all been there.
Yeah.
That's fine. Just yeah, just getting out there and putting her heart on the page. But
Hmm.
despite that love of poetry, that need to write poetry, it wasn't going to be her destiny for her whole life. So
Okay.
I got to be a little bit careful here because foolishly I started reading the novel before doing the research. So I need to like really clearly separate in my head the things that the novel depicts and the research.
Yes.
But
It's not an autobiography. It's not a biography.
no, it's not.
It's a novel.
It's
Yeah.
historical fiction, and there's lots of truth in it, but it takes a really clear view. And basically, what happens is Eliza goes to this publisher with the idea to publish another poetry collection, and for whatever reason, that publisher says no, we don't want
Hmm.
to publish that. But we do want you to do something entirely new, which is a book about food, a book about cookery. And in the
What?
novel, yeah,
What do you mean?
that was pretty much her response in the novel. She's like, absolutely not. What are you talking about? And then she eventually warms up to the idea because of financial necessity. In
Fine. Oh,
reality, it's less clear. She might have been up for it immediately, but what is known is that her father was declared bankrupt at about that time. And he then went off to France, go figure, And she
France
did.
is the land of
France is the place where you go if you're in Suffolk and things are going south, literally. So yeah, she took the cookbook job. And what I super admire is that she absolutely got to work. She didn't sort of grudgingly do it. She threw herself at it wholeheartedly and spent 10 years making this extraordinary work. So the cookbook we will call Modern Cookery throughout this talk because the full title's a bit longer. I've got it for here for you to read in a second. But yeah, it's a mammoth. It's just over 500 pages. And if you would be kind enough to read the entire title.
Modern cookery in all its branches, reduced to a system of easy practice for the use of private families, in a series of practical receipts which have been strictly tested and are given with the most minute exactness.
I
What do you
mean,
mean?
that's a title. That's a title and a half. That is
Would
a
it
mission
fit on the?
statement.
Where is it?
I know. I don't
That's going
know.
to
That is a
be.
picture of the cover. It must just be on the spine in the smallest print you've ever seen. I think it's absolutely charming. It
Yes,
would
you're true.
you could
You're right.
see a reader standing in a bookshop holding this thing. The whole marketing pitch is in the title. And
Well, exactly. Yeah.
if that didn't persuade you, if you flipped it open on the inside facing page, you would see it was dedicated to the young housekeepers of England, which, oh,
Nice. So she
cute.
knows her target market. She's
She
pinpointed
knows
it
she is
exactly.
shrewd
Yeah.
businesswoman. And once that reader got that book home, they will not have been disappointed because
Okay.
she has got this completely novel approach. Cookbooks that existed up to this point in time were only intended as sort of memory helpers for professional chefs. So people who worked in commercial kitchens, people who worked in, a big manor house in the kitchen of that house, they didn't bother with little pesky details, just jotted notes, add some eggs or do this in the
Add
French
some
way.
eggs.
Like seriously, literally, this is how recipes
Oh,
were up till
that
Eliza got
sounds so
involved.
stressful.
Horrible. Eliza's recipes were aimed really intentionally at the kind of home cooks that, like you and I are, people who like to cook, we like food, but we need specifics in order to get it started. Like we need advice. Believe it or not, nothing like that had ever been printed before. So there's a little excerpt there of her recipe for raspberry jam. Very straightforward. It talks exactly about how many pounds of raspberries, how much sugar, how many minutes. Those
That hadn't happened before.
those ingredients being separately pulled out, the times, the methods of mixing and so on hadn't been described before. It would just say raspberry jam, make the raspberry jam. Like that was
Yeah.
about the vibe.
Do you think that's
So
because people were like just living off the land a lot more? Just like
I suppose,
make do with what you have,
well, and
maybe.
family recipes would be passed on in oral tradition
Yeah.
because again, we're at a time where literacy of a common person in a common household is kind of new. And so up till now, perhaps things were jotted down and handed on, but really you just learned at your mother's hip and that was
Yeah,
how you
okay. So
knew.
you memorize it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which means you know the things your mother knew and her mother before her.
Mm.
But this this method of compiling a cookbook with cooking times, ingredient measurements, and methods just opened it out to people. And so she was a poet. She had a poet's soul, but she also had a sort of pragmatism about her. There's a quote from her here about why she wanted to add those details to her recipes.
It is the want of a scientific basis which has given rise to so many absurd and hurtful methods of preparing food. So she's coming at it from a health and safety point of view.
Health and safety, yes, and more. We'll kind of come back to that in
Okay,
a
okay.
second. But yeah, she really wanted it to be robust and rigorous and scientific, not just airy fairy and oh, this is how we've always done it, and perhaps that wasn't the most efficient or sensible way. So
Have you read the book Lessons in Chemistry?
I have.
Yeah,
That's
feels
a really good parallel.
right. Yeah, it feels very obviously that's a lot later, like in history, that's 1960s.
But this, yeah, the same
But she was
energy,
sciencey,
wanting
wasn't
to,
she? Yeah.
she was a chemist and wanted
Yeah.
that rigor to be applied to
Mm.
things for similar reasons, because you want the predictable results.
Yeah.
Even now, having cooked for literally decades at my age, I am really frustrated if a recipe says something like add some oil, like give me measurements. I just need the information. So that was very much the energy she was bringing. And although that practicality was important to her, she still had her love of the arts, I think, because you
Okay.
see the language of the book and the illustrations in the book really
Mm.
show beauty, for lack of a better word. I have put here a quote from her introduction to the book to give you a flavor of her kind of use of language, if you would be kind enough to read it.
Sure. When both the mind and body are exhausted by the toils of the day, heavy or unsuitable food, so far from recruiting their enfeebled powers, prostrates their energies more completely. Eat to live should be the motto, by the spirits of which all writers upon it should be guided. Oh, she's quite flary,
Yeah,
isn't
she's
she?
got a little pizzazz about her, and that you
Yeah,
can see some of the illustrations there, which I hope we'll put up on the socials. There's all kinds of bits and pieces throughout the
cuteness.
cookbook. They're so charming. Yes, so the thing you asked about the previous quote about food being prepared in an absurd and
Oh, in a
hurtful
health
way.
way. Yeah.
This is very now. She was really interested in food waste and preventing food waste and recommending that
Mm.
kind of nose to tail eating culture centuries before it became proper. And there's
Mm.
another quote from her here on that same topic if you're up for it.
It may be safely averred that good cookery is the best and trust economy, turning to full account every wholesome article of food and converting into palatable meals what the ignorant either render uneatable or throw away in disdain.
So, as a vegetarian, I think you will respond to her. She has so many rants throughout the cookbook about badly cooked
Does
vegetables and how
she?
inedible they are, and like overboiling something, or,
God, we
yeah,
could have bonded over cauliflower. It would have
you,
been
yep.
great.
An overcooked cauliflower is beneath disdain, absolutely disgusting. But she was like, this is how you do it. So it's nice and it can be done. Um,
There.
she also like poured her own personality into the book, which was a
Yeah.
novelty at the time. Most cookery, again, being a very kind of professional manual, was very dry, like Haynes manual style.
Okay.
She, through this like conversational approach to it, made it more appealing. She would talk about if a dish had gone wrong, a kind of like Nigella
That's
thing, where she'd be like,
nice.
"Oh, what are we like?"
I'm one of
Um,
you. Yeah.
yeah, just like everybody else, she tried every single recipe in the cookbook at home before putting it in. Maybe
Quite
that's why it
right.
took her 10 years. Um,
Yeah.
she also had a bit of sass about her. So, one of her dishes is a recipe for a sort of stale bread in boiled milk pudding with a little tiny bit of sugar and a little bit of spice. And that is named the Poor Author's Pudding. And the next recipe is called the Publisher's Pudding, which has things like almonds and marrow and raisins and
Oh,
citron and
Eliza.
brandy. And her opening note on that one is the publisher's pudding can scarcely be made too rich. Oh, it's
She
just
did
a bit.
not.
She did. She did. She was coming at him.
She
That's
was
fine.
sassy.
I love it though. I think that is the combination of qualities, that precision. She had empathy for her reader. She wanted to test things herself. She took it very seriously before recommending them. She had a beauty of language, these charming illustrations, and just personality. And it made modern cookery into a tremendous success. So, yeah, that focus on telling everyday people you can cook tasty food. It's within your reach. It's down to
Yeah,
earth.
it's possible.
It's it's possible. It's reliable. It kept her cookbook with 13 revisions in print until 1918. And the work outlived the author. She died relatively young in 1859. So we're nearly going to move on for modern cookery, but before we do, I have to talk a little tiny bit about the food. It had so many firsts in it. She had recipes for spaghetti, which she called spargetti and sort of referred to as Naples vermicelli, which apparently made it more
Nice.
understandable at the time, whatever. She had some of the first recipes Victorians would have even heard of, let alone seen, for
Yeah.
chutneys and curries, food from other countries.
Did
She kind
she?
of, yeah, she went out to her
Wild.
friends and said, what have you eaten? What's good? What do you, and then she would try those recipes out. The recipe list alone is worth reading. And again, if you go to Project Gutenberg, they have published it in full. You can just whiz through. It's such an insight into the kind of things that they would eat at the time, like mock turtle soup and stuff. You're like, what even is
Mm.
that? But then things that we would recognize today. There's a little excerpt here where it's light buns of different kinds. The Exeter bun. I'm like, oh, yes, please. Devonshire cream. Don't mind if I do. Oh, and there's a little seasonal synchronicity because we're recording this in December. And in this book of firsts, there are two Christmas specific ones to note. So Modern Cookery has the first printed recipe for a Christmas pudding
Does
and the
it?
first for Brussels sprouts. So there you go.
Oh.
There's also
Is that
mince
the
pies in
pudding
there.
there? Is that the Christmas
That
pudding
is her
image?
chapter about puddings in general. That's
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
front piece for the chapter about puddings. But
Yes.
to me, that looked like a Christmas pudding, so in
It
it
does a
went.
little bit, I think. Yeah, for sure.
So
Oh, this
yeah,
is
good old
adorable.
Eliza, isn't it sweet?
Yes.
It, things are about to get a little saltier, so just bear. Modern Cookery was incredibly popular. Every good Victorian household had a copy. This is, you're too young. This is a 90s reference, but it made me think of River Cottage Cookbook. Everybody had River Cottage Cookbook in the 90s. This was kind of that of its day. And
Okay.
for people who are listening who are interested in history, it might also bring to mind a book called Mrs. Beeton's Book of Household Management,
I think
right?
that's the one I'm thinking of. It's funny.
Yes.
I was just Googling, so I wanted to bring it up, but I couldn't. Yeah, I
Well,
think it is
hold
that
on
one.
to your apron because that brings us to the
Ooh.
unexpected villain of the piece. So
Oh.
Modern Cookery was eventually knocked off the top spot in British households by Isabella Beeton's Mrs. Beeton's Book of Household Management. That was published in 1861 and is still widely in print today. It was a seminal work for British housemakers, British cooks. Everybody, I think, pretty much knows about it. Cornerstone food book. But nowadays, scholars and historians have come to understand that Mrs. Beeton's book freely plagiarized from many
What?
of Eliza Acton's recipes, and not just hers. There are bits and pieces from a lot of different books, all of them given without credit.
Without credit. Oh,
Without
it's
credit.
so easy to give credit, people. It's so
And
simple.
this is the thing. I guess we see in the history of the printing trade that copyright laws had already come into effect, but having a law and enforcing a law are very different matters. So, what ultimately happened was Mrs. Beeton's book, which was newer and had more recent techniques and amalgamated the best of several other cookbooks, outpaced Acton's in the 1860s. Thankfully, after Eliza had died, that would have been devastating for her to see, but it sounds as though she may have been aware of the plagiarism, which would have been really frustrating, I'm sure. But nowadays, no truth can hide from the sun forever. We now have a turning tide, and this awareness of Eliza Acton and what she brought to food cookery and to helping home cooks has really started to come to light. She's starting to gather some support. Delia Smith, who's just
Yeah.
this legend of British cookery, calls her the best writer of recipes in the English language. And people from Jane Grigson to Rick Stein are going to bat for her and talking about the influence of her books and how they can
Hers,
see
not
what hers, not
Isabella's.
Mrs. Beaton's. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really starting to come full circle. And, we just have to know that when we see a recipe that we can follow as not as trained chefs, but just as home cooks, let alone one with personal asides from the author, we
Mm.
have Eliza Acton to thank for that. So uh, I do believe this is the last quote I've incorporated, but just to give you one last little one that I thought was adorable. this is her talking about why we don't cook when we're in a bad mood. And it's from a pineapple marmalade recipe.
If the mixture is placed onto a direct heat, it will often convert what would otherwise be excellent preserve into a strange sort of compound for which it is difficult to find a name.
So it's adorable. I mean, she's there with us in the kitchen. We understand what we're doing because of the way she brings us in. Um, if you have found her as charming as I have, or if you need a good recipe for Christmas pudding or mince pies, go check out Modern Cookery on Project Gutenberg. You can also look for a nonfiction account of her life called The Real Mrs. Beeton, the story of Eliza Acton. Coming
Damn.
straight for it. Or for fiction, the book that I had been given by Teresa, The Language of Food by Anabel Abbs, which I can now finally go ahead and read without fear of pulling fiction into our talk today. Oh, and that book has apparently been optioned by one of the American television networks, so it should be made into a
That's
series in the future. So
exciting.
that's fun. And yeah, that's all I've got for you today, but that has made me hungry. I was thinking I might go and try her Yorkshire ploughman's salad, which I thought sounded
That
delightful.
sounds
But you
delightful.
could feel free to peruse the different recipes and pick one that you might be interested in.
Well, you know,
Lobster
I'm doing.
sausages.
Oh, Nathan.
I
Oh,
know,
dear.
it's so weird.
It goes so well. No, I was thinking that I'm doing what am I doing for the choir thing? Mince pies. Maybe I could do Eliza's mince pies, maybe.
Oh,
Are they
a note of
risky?
caution. They're risky because I think they incorporate very Victorian things like beef suet. So
Okay.
they might not be vegetarian friendly, but that's
Yeah.
Victorians for you, isn't
Because
it?
I was thinking about making mince pies and I was thinking, do I even bother? Because you're going to make, you could pre-buy the pastry, pre-buy the mincemeat. What am I
I
doing? I'm
mean,
just assembling.
you can make from scratch if, if you
I
feel I would
can,
never
but
make pastry from scratch
even Mary
personally,
Berry
but
doesn't make, yeah, Mary Berry doesn't make pastry. So it's like, what am I doing?
nah.
So then I was like, maybe I should just buy some. And it kind of took all the joy out of it. I don't know. I'm a bit
Oh, you
in a bit
could
of a
make your
pickle
own
already.
filling. I would halfway house it. I reckon I would buy the pastry, make the filling, and then
Make the
use,
filling.
yeah, you can
Yeah, I'll
make
have a
it your
go.
own.
I'll have a look. This Miss Elizabeth Beaton. No, was it
Mm.
Isabella Beaton?
Yeah.
What possessed her?
I wondered if
Steep.
what possessed her was the commanding words of her publisher, because, the person who's printing the stuff, they're the commissioner, really. They're the ones who say, this is what it needs to contain. And I wonder if there was pressure on her to take the best of what was out there. And who knows, in a meeting room, yes, of course, we'll give credit to all of the sources. Like, you don't know. I'm going to try not to judge harshly what I don't fully understand, but it doesn't sound great, does it?
I just wonder what the why.
I guess if there's a successful thing that's kind of been knocking around for a while, I mean, this is a story as old as
It's like a
time, isn't it?
knockoff,
You
isn't it?
rip it
Yeah.
off, make it a little bit, freshen it up with some new material, and hey presto, best-selling book that's still around hundreds of
Yeah.
years
It's
later.
easy money, isn't it? I guess. But
Yeah.
AI says that Mrs. Beaton's lasting genius was not actually in creating original recipes, but in her innovation and systemic presentation of them. Her clear and consistent way of presentation, including useful notes on pricing, seasonality, and social etiquette, which made the information
Oh.
accessible and highly popular for the Victorian middle class. So they're saying it's not all in the recipe, I guess is what she's
No,
saying.
she's, I guess, like Eliza Acton,
Adding
Isabella Beeton
value.
has
Yeah.
added something new and
Unique.
useful
Yeah.
into the mix.
What a pesky monkey.
Mm.
Interesting. I didn't know what to expect today, but not that. That is delightful.
It is
Absolutely
pleasant, isn't it?
delightful. And did she
Even
get
all things
money?
considered.
It said 10 years between her for her to write it. So what was she doing? Like if her
I don't
father
know. I
was,
genuinely don't
yeah,
know whether she had an advance on the work or what, but I do know
yeah.
that at some point, she became a cookery correspondent for several home journals.
Okay.
She published other works about food as well, something about bread. She kind of she immersed herself in that world, but whether those things happened after she was published cookery book writer or whether they were whilst she was doing it, I'm not sure. There's this whole like murky thing about her mom and her moving to this house, and then her dad goes off to France because he's bankrupt, and they stay in the house.
First thing was a pamphlet. There's no reason she couldn't make other pamphlets. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't have to be.
She did have poetry published in journals, whether it was paid for or not, I don't know. So yeah, all the sniffy people who say, oh, it wasn't very good, well, they can put that in their pipe and smoke it. Somebody thought it was good enough. It's still in print now, you know, still out there.
And also, I think that shows how much she cared, you know what I mean, about her output as well. If it took 10 years to perfect. Yeah.
500 odd pages. That's a lot of recipes to try.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I never knew that. Thank you so much, Cara.
It was a fun one to research. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this episode of She Changed History. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Find us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you've got any ideas of women you'd like us to cover in a future episode, please comment on the socials or email us at shechangedhistory@gmail.com. Catch you next time.